Hey, how's it going? It's Jessey here from the Land Investing Business Secrets podcast. I've got a really unique guest. His name is Cameron Schulz. He initially started the conversation about Pebble, and then we ended up just sort of chatting. And it's really interesting to just hear his role as he is the operations manager of a really good size land investing business. In fact, many of you probably know the owner and founder of that land investing business. And I thought it was really unique to just hear what day to day looks like for someone like Cameron, who's getting in and putting out fires and moving the business forward that doesn't have ownership over the company, and what keeps him motivated. And I hope this is going to be insightful for some of you guys that are growing your team or looking for your next hire. Anyways, enjoy this episode here with Cameron. Sick. All right, we got our guest here, Cameron Schulz. Cameron, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well, Jessey. Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show. And I'm really excited to talk to you because you're really in a unique position. You're not actually the owner of the land company you work for. And I'll get you to share a little bit about that. You are really, I would say, from what I gathered so far, you're sort of in charge of a lot of the operations and keeping things moving together in the itself. I think before we even jump into that, what things look like, what are your responsibilities, and how do you move with such a big team or a team that accomplishes so much? I'd love to learn what's your origin story? How did you get into your role?
Yeah, totally. So I'm 24 years old. I graduated college back in 2024 from University of St. Thomas in Minnesota. I was a Division I track and field athlete. I did the decathlon. It was a lot of fun, blast, loved it. Body cannot keep up with that anymore. I'm old now, apparently. But basically, I studied a bunch of business stuff, like marketing, entrepreneurship, finance, the whole ladder. Come from a history of family business owners. My parents sell used car parts. Pretty sweet gig.
Wow.
But yeah, and so I guess really businesses is kind of in my blood.
Yeah.
It's been around. It's something that I've never shied away from. It was always the dinner table conversation that you'd have, like, hey, how's work? What happened today? Oh my goodness, this happened. Like all that type of stuff all through growing up. So something I'd been surrounded by. And then I was in the job search 2024 job market for a new grad. It was tough, man. It was tough because you'd be blasting things out into the void, and then maybe somebody would like respond to your resume.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have a warm intro, you weren't getting into a company. And at the time I was working with a recruiter, and this recruiter is like, hey, I've got this company, Centurion Financial Strategies, super small business here. And they do some very interesting things, not very traditional.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, sure. Let me take a look. This was Dave's financial planning business. And
Yes, right.
so basically she sent me the resume, and she's like, this resume is like, you'd be pricing land and helping to do land due diligence along with trading stocks. I'm like, huh, this is really interesting. I know things about the stocks. I don't know anything about real estate, but honestly, this looks kind of fun. Super small team. There's 3 of us in the office working directly under the entrepreneur. This looks awesome. Let me give this an interview. And so, yeah, no, chatted with Dave, and now here I am today doing not what was on my job description, but that's.
And when we say Dave, just so the listener knows.
Oh, yeah. So Dave Denniston, Generation Family Properties. He's been in the land business since 2017.
Yeah.
And has done all sorts of different stuff. He's also a full-time financial advisor.
That's right.
He's got a book of, $80 million of assets. And, there's 350, 400 accounts under our management.
He's a busy guy. Is what you're
Busy
saying.
guy.
Yeah. Curious, do you know how he splits his time? I've had him on the show, I think a couple times. I must have asked him, but how does he currently split between that and this?
So his split is probably close to 50.
Wow.
Right now, maybe 60% financial planning, 40% land. It kind of depends on the needs of each of the businesses at the given time.
Sure.
Because obviously the financial planning business he is the business,
Right.
Versus the land business. He has this team built up around him that kind of can take things over when need be. But to really drive innovation, he has to get a little bit more involved. It's kind of a little bit of a where he wants to put his put his chips, basically.
Sure,
But
sure.
I mean, as for team sizes, on the financial planning team, it's Dave, an executive assistant, and then part-time me and part-time one other person. And then on the land side, we have a team of 13, about to be 14 next week. Definitely two very different environments.
Yeah.
Yeah, great stuff.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about that. I'm really curious. You come from a background of family business. Does that mean both your parents were running their own business, or were they joint running a business together? And you know, before coming into a role like this, did you have experience working alongside with them? Did you help out with that? What did that look like?
Yeah, totally. So I guess basically the short version of the story is back in look, my grandpa got out of the Navy after Vietnam, and he came back as a welder. He used to do all the welding, like the underwater welding on the ships. It was pretty sweet. But and he got back and he's like, I want to do something that uses all the skills that I gained in the Navy here. I'm gonna start dismantling cars. And so he started dismantling cars and selling the parts. And eventually that turned into a company, AAA Auto Parts, not associated with roadside collision. There's been lawsuits there. We were first. And then the other business is U-Polar Parts. And so one of them is a kind of more full serve refurbished auto parts distributor. And then the other one is a self-serve yard where people come in with their toolboxes and pull the parts that they want off cars. And so my parents, also my mom also grew up in kind of that business, watching him do all the things that he was doing. The times where, maybe my grandparents didn't take a paycheck because they needed the money to go spend it at a car auction or whatever. And so, that's kind of always been in my mom's blood too. And then, after my mom and dad got married, my dad ended up starting out bottom of the barrel, working as a delivery driver, and eventually worked himself up to doing kind of the acquisitions and kind of whatever the business needed. He was like your guy. And so, it's been a journey for them of personal growth that I've only witnessed the back end of.
Right.
In like the time where I would be able to remember it, but so impactful to be able to see all of that, and a strong couple working together in the same business that they've eventually acquired from one of their parents, along with a couple other siblings. And so it's an amazing thing to be able to witness, and
That's
very
really cool.
inspiring. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I grew up with parents and family also, running their own small businesses. So it's I'm sure it instills something in us to get into the business field. And so, you came from college, an athlete, and it's funny, at an age of 24, some do consider that on the older side.
That's a joke, man. That is
although,
completely a joke.
I feel like that's still kind of young. Okay, so we're here today. You're spending most of your time in the land business. What would you say are your biggest responsibilities right now?
Yeah, totally. I guess within GFP, knowing that Dave is, part-time, he doesn't have a lot of the time to do all of the oversight necessary to run a team of 14 people. And so what my kind of primary job right now is I am overseeing all of our closings, buy side and sell side. So I manage our transaction coordinator team, and then I also co-manage our sales and acquisitions team. And so basically, I have my hands in a lot of different things, but most of it is kind of just trying to make sure that all of our closings, buy side, sell side, happen on time, and then making sure our processes are built out in a way where they're going to be able to help us grow the business and see some success. And also making sure that we got the right butts in the right seats. We're big on EOS and all those, more structures where it's not just the processes, it's the people too. So investing back into a team, building a team that can help us take GFP from being a $3 million business to a $6 million, $10 million business.
Yeah, you're essentially there cracking the whip on people, making sure things are moving on time. I'm sure you probably have to go in and unclog a lot of the congestion that goes on in the business. Is that right?
Oh yeah, man. No, there's always something going on. That's for sure.
Can you give us an example of, something that just
Oh,
recently came up that maybe you're involved with right now? What does that look
yeah,
like?
totally, man. Honestly, this was my win for the day. Whenever we have our stand-ups with our transaction coordinator team and our sales team every day. And so when I was in the transaction coordinator team this meeting today, my win was, hey, we finally settled our first title claim and we won. So that was pretty exciting for us. It was a big step in the right direction. We have a property that we bought down in Aiken County, South Carolina. We bought this property, oh gosh, probably 9 months ago now, and we've had it under contract 3 different times to sell. We're selling it now for a lot less than we were originally selling it for. But it is what it is. We're still making money. It's a good sale.
Yeah.
Getting like 2/3 of our basis back on a down payment for owner financing. So that's great. But basically, we were told time and time again by title companies and closing attorneys that, hey, there's no legal access to this property. I'm like, what do you mean there's no legal access? There is a platted road or a road name on Google Maps right to the property. This
Yeah.
thing has a 911 address. There used to be a manufactured home on the property. And you're telling me there's no legal access? What?
Right.
Like there's docs here to support that. Oh no, those docs are invalid because of some random rule that says that if the person who gives the easement also owns that back property at some point, then the easement is invalid. Whatever, man. But title company didn't catch it on the buy side,
Mm.
which that's a whole nother tangent. But I just got into that tangent on my podcast with Dave. So if you want to go hear about national title companies, go listen to that one.
Oh
But
gosh.
that was not fun. But basically, we were kind of scared to file a title claim. We'd never done it before.
Mm.
And then we ended up being like, okay, we should open this. And then we were able to get Westcore Title to offer us a reinsurance to get our transaction closed, and they're going to polish it up on the back end for us.
Oh,
They're like, we
nice.
tossed you guys around for too long here. Let's just get this deal closed, and we'll figure it out after the close happens. So that's a huge win for us.
That's the kind of congestion you have to deal with.
Yes. And so
Okay.
that's my day to day is when do these problems come up?
Yeah.
I'm the one who has to solve them. So
Yeah. Right. Okay.
obviously I delegate some of those off to the rest of our team, but there's some things that you just got to do.
And I'm assuming you're the one who's going to push that forward and get that across the finish line. Speaking of team members, you guys are huge believers in having the right people on the team. How do you know when somebody's right and how do you know when somebody's wrong? Like, what have you seen in the past here? I know you've been in your seat. I don't know how long have you been in your position now?
So I've been with Dave for 2 years now.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've been around for quite a while. I've seen a lot of churn through the company.
Mm.
But I guess, how do you know the right person is in the right position? That is the $1,000,000 question that I think that any business operator would try to answer. Actually, heck, that's probably a billion trillion dollar question because there's Fortune 500 companies that don't know the answer to that question.
Right.
But I think really kind of what it is for GFP, how do we know we have the right people? We have a list of 7 core values: continually pursuing growth, team first attitude, drive to serve others, follow up in communication, reliability, proactive effort, and flexibility. Those 7 things define what it means to be on the GFP team. And if somebody is demonstrating those 7 things through their role, they're a good culture. And building a culture has been the most important thing to having that I've noticed in GFP success in the last 2 years is we're able to do all these things because we have this team that's bought into the vision and distributing or demonstrating the qualities of that we're kind of looking for. We have people who will take ownership over their tasks and go get it done. I guess, does that make sense?
Yeah. Making sure of the culture and core values isn't something we often talk about on this show here.
Mhm.
And it seems like you guys, at least your team core values very, very well. How do you keep that alive with the team? Like, what is it that you guys do to sort of revisit those core values? Like, is there an exercise you guys do? Is there something weekly you guys do to make sure you keep that alive? What does that look like?
Oh yeah. So during our stand-ups, we meet. Each of our teams of our business meets every day for 30 minutes. And so one of those days every other week is dedicated to discussions on core values. And so basically, our Wednesdays, they flip-flop back and forth between AI and core values. And so basically those Wednesday discussions are times for us because to bond, to discuss our core values, to discuss how that relates back to each other. Those conversations get pretty deep. You wouldn't believe some of the conversations we have in these stand-up meetings.
Yeah, give
But
us an
especially,
example.
gosh, like, we're talking about drive to serve others. This was one of our topics we discussed a couple weeks ago. And we were talking with one of our lead managers. Hey, Joe, how do you drive to serve others through your role as a lead manager? How do you drive to serve others? That's not something you think about very often, is how am I helping this person that we're buying land from? Right.
Mm.
And that's such an important thing, to being able to feel like you're a part of something and not just a cog in a machine. Really, what we're doing as land investors, especially on the buy side, is we're helping people be able to move on from properties, be able to clean up air issues or title issues, or help them not lose their house, or, all those other things, right? It comes back to the why. We're doing this. We're buying the land. Yes, we're going to make money on it. There's financial incentive for us, but we're doing that because we care and we want to help people. And I think that's what a lot of teams kind of miss is, why are we doing this? And so that's something that we're super big on. That's just one example.
So it sounds like it's part of, like you said, your
Mhm.
weekly or daily stand up. You keep the core values alive. Do you sort of like rotate and pick on one core value?
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
how do you demonstrate this week, and the next week you might talk about another core value? And if you are pulling out team members to talk about that, do they always have something to contribute, or
No.
is there always challenge to bring up something that is related to that core value?
Yeah. And so I guess the really nice thing about kind of how I sit in relation to a lot of the rest of the team is I'm not the big scary CEO looking down at you saying, how do you do all of these things that we've set? Am
Right.
I on the leadership team? Yes. Do we have our weekly leadership meetings where we discuss all of the issues going on in our business? Yes. But at the same time, I'm also able to kind of come at it from a different angle where, hey, yes, I am your direct supervisor, I'm your manager, but we are also at the same time peers. And so, we can have these real conversations without you feeling like you have to give me an answer. And so, is everybody going to have an answer to every question? Heck no. But I mean, what I typically do is I go in with a list of 3 to 5 short little discussion topics, and those 3 to 5 questions usually end up taking us 20 minutes. So just
Gotcha.
chatting and kind of, building that team camaraderie around a strong set of values.
Sure. Curious, Cameron, is a team all locally based, or are some people
No.
are remote?
So the funny thing is that the only two people or the only person I've ever met before I met Eric, one of Dave's other partners, like a couple weeks ago, hog hunting down in Texas, is Dave. So Dave and I are in office here in Minnesota, and we have 3 other domestic employees. Everybody else is international.
Wow.
Philippines, Egypt,
Yeah.
South America,
Yeah.
all over the place, right? And so, we've built this culture that we have despite not having met face to face.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, especially when you talk about the whole mix of cultures from all over the place
Sure.
and how
Sure.
different everybody is. So, it's definitely a challenge to build a culture in a remote environment, but it's possible.
And
Talking at a screen.
yeah, no, I think a lot of people would understand that, talking to a
Mhm.
screen. Can you sort of describe the major roles in the team right now, and what does that sort of structure look like for you guys?
Yeah, I guess so. Right now, GFP has Dave, who sits kind of on top, right? And then next in the hierarchy, there's me, and then we have our acquisition manager, Reggie. And then below that, under me, I have 2 TCs, a on market specialist who's scrubbing on market opportunities and putting together pricing for on market minor subdivides.
Oh.
And then we have a handful of kind of more admin based VAs that kind of fall under my realm as well. And then over on the sales side, we have currently one Facebook VA dedicating their full time to Facebook marketing via marketplace and groups,
Yep.
which has had varying levels of success. We're testing.
Yeah.
And then we have 2 lead managers, and
Okay.
well, obviously our acquisition manager Reggie,
Mm.
who's in the leadership. But yeah, it's a It's a big team, lots of moving parts, but basically it comes down to two TCs, two lead managers, an acquisitions manager, and an army of VAs.
And do you find you got are you spending more of your time on the acquisition side or on the sales side?
So right now, GFP actually is not doing any outbound marketing. So basically, we started the year with 155 properties in our inventory. And, as a lot of land investors know, this market's been a little slow. So what we're doing right now is we're putting all our efforts on the sell side.
Okay.
And so we do a lot of our dispo through realtors. We have like kind of like a co-broke agreement where, we're marketing it ourselves too. We're putting it on land.com. We got 70 land.com slots, a lot. And then doing all sorts of other things as well through automation and neighbor letters and signs and all sorts of fun stuff. But we went full in on moving both of our lead managers to being about 75% focused on the dispo side, working on neighbors and working on realtors in the area, trying to find people with buyers and just all sorts of other things that wouldn't be traditional for a lead.
All right, so you heard it with Cameron here. One of the big things they do on the dispo side are neighbor letters. I remember doing my first neighbor letter, and it took me quite a while to put it together, put the images on there and the from my photographer, and then the satellite Google Earth and all this, and then finally get it out to the mailbox, and only sent it out to the two adjacent neighbors of my parcel. This is something that is built right into Pebble and our mailing system. Pebble is a full-on mail system that handles everything from letter creation to the lead tracking to the response rates to the actual tracking of the letter. Getting out your neighbor letters now inside of Pebble literally took us 25 seconds flat on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast as we did that. And what that means is going to a property, generating that letter. It can automatically pull your photographer's image, the satellite image, get everything laid out for you in literally 2 seconds. And then you're presented with a map. And you can literally select the neighbors or lasso the area, hit send, and out it goes the next business day, whether it's a letter with a full window with a picture on there, or a postcard, whatever you'd like, that goes out the next business day. Pebble really streamlines all the mailing that you do within your land business. If you want to learn a little bit more, head over to pebblerei.com. There's a mailing section on the top menu. You can read a little bit about our mailing and all the functionalities and features we have built into our powerful mail system. Or you can hop on a call with me. There's a book a demo call. It's a no pressure call to just chat about what's going on with mailing for yourself and your team. Anyways, I do hope you enjoy the rest of this episode here with Cameron Schulz.
Manager.
Sure. Cool. Thanks for sharing a little bit about that. And then, so what does, I don't know, like in your role right now, where do you see you guys can clearly improve on, or where you have a very good sight or clear path of where things can currently improve, and what are you guys going to do about that?
Oh gosh, and that's a loaded question, man. There's so many things, because nothing is ever perfect. But I think for me personally right now, what I'm working on improving on is being able to juggle all the balls that come in. And product management. I'm not a natural born product manager. I'm just not. And so it's how do you develop that skill of being able to delegate, not step in, don't overreach, like some of those type of things. As a company, what GFP needs to work on right now is kind of honing in on what really works today. And I think in order to do that, we have to figure out what doesn't. And that's kind of what we're doing right now. We have our eggs spread into a lot of baskets. We have major shiny object syndrome, as you know. But it's basically, hey, what can we make work in 2026? Because we don't really know right now, honestly. We've had a lot of really good success in the past, with our squares. We have an awesome note portfolio that funds pretty much all of our operating expenses. It's where is the future of our company? And that's something we're trying to figure out now.
All right, Cameron here. How about, you're motivated. You're clearly motivated. You've got your stuff together. You're 2 years into this role. What do you think makes you a great hire? For those that are listening, how can they find someone like Cameron if they want someone like Cameron? But I wouldn't. I would imagine everybody would want a Cameron on their team who is managing things, is moving things, and is taking ownership. You know, what do you think makes you a great hire?
Yeah, I guess the thing that makes me good or a good hire would be that I'm not willing to get I am willing to get my hands dirty. And, I think that that's what a lot of people my age are not comfortable doing is actually getting it out there, just giving it a shot, giving it a whirl. Sometimes you'll fail, sometimes you'll do good. But I think that that's the really key thing that has helped me in, the success in this role is that, Dave, as a CEO, as my supervisor, says, I don't know the answer to this. Go figure it out. And I'm willing to do that. And so I guess that's really what if I were to hire a Cameron, which I've had a couple people, hey, how do I hire you? I'm like, you can't hire me unless you write enough check, a big enough check. But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, basically, I guess how do you find a Cameron? You find somebody who's driven, and I would recommend go look at your local entrepreneurship school program. That's where I would look. That's where I was.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely, you reek of that. You do have that very entrepreneurial spirit, as you're sort of moving in this role here. Clearly, there's something that motivates you. Is that something that is more intrinsic, or is there external motivation? What is it that you think that keeps you moving things the way you do?
And so I think my biggest motivator is being a part of something that's bigger than myself. And so what I love about GFP is that, we have this goal of, we're going to help people achieve the American dream of owning land. Sounds like any other land investor who puts together their value mission statement, right? But, the actions that we take as a company and, being out there genuinely trying to help people like, hey, let me help you out of this crappy situation, or hey, let me help you do XYZ. That keeps me moving forward personally. It's really just, I get to be a part of this awesome team that, Dave has built, but, I've helped grow since. I've hired like 5 people in the last 2 years. Not all of them have stuck. They were hired at one point. It's really just about being a part of something that is like bigger than yourself. Obviously, money is nice too. I won't complain about that. But at the end of the day, it's a part of is really all about being a part of something.
I think it's really interesting you mentioned, Dave sort of gives you that room to just figure it out. I think that's one thing, to allow you to make mistakes. And when mistakes are made, how does Dave handle that? And, how does that not get in your way so you can continue to take ownership? I really want to get an understanding of how this sort of all gets nurtured. I think especially, what if you do make a mistake? How does that get handled?
Yeah, no, that's tricky. And the biggest mistake I've made with GFP is going to end up costing Dave about $30,000 if we can sell the property at where we have it listed at today. And so we bought a property up in Maine where basically it was old, hadn't been surveyed in forever. And we'd already strung these ladies through the muck trying to buy this property off of them. It's really crappy situation. We were waiting on a survey. They told us the survey wasn't going to be back for 4 months. And we're like, and Dave's just like, make a judgment call, Cam. I made that judgment call and said, let's close. Turns out that property is not the right amount of acreage. We didn't own half the property that we thought we did. And it was the nice half that we don't own. And so, now we're stuck with this piece of inventory where we have it listed below our basis. And it has all sorts of challenges. But, at the end of the day, it was me that made a judgment call. Yeah. I owned that, or I own that. But at the same time, Dave's like, these are the kind of mistakes that we make operating a land business. What we do is speculative, like in nature. We aren't going to get everything right. We just want to keep up a good batting average so that we're able to, weather the blows.
Yeah, no, I like that. All right, last question here for you. What do you think is one big thing you learned that you hadn't prior stepping into this role that serves the team very well, whether it's a soft skill or whatever it is? Does anything come to mind to you?
Yeah. And I guess really, obviously this is my first job out of college. I've had internships, I've had all of this other stuff, but this is my first time working for somebody for more than like 4 months. And I don't count my parents.
Right.
No, so it's all about how do you create a long-term vision for not only yourself, but your role, your team, the people around you, all of that. Because, as leadership is something that's come to me fairly naturally, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of one of those things of you have to be able to cast that vision for your team, because that's part of leadership. That's the difference
Mm,
between leadership and management, is being able to anybody can manage somebody, but leadership is really about being able to help them in the other scopes of their work,
right.
creating that culture, being able to nurture talent, being able to develop trust. And
Yeah.
so that's really the big learning I've had, I think.
I mean, it sounds like you are the leader in this team. Never mind Dave anymore.
Oh no,
So
no, he's still important. He needs to be around.
I know, I'm
But
joking.
no,
No,
no.
I appreciate you, sharing everything that, you guys are doing behind the scenes here, from the way that you guys structure your team, what sort of day to day looks like. Is your official title there?
Uh, it's operations manager. But
Okay.
like that
I mean,
that can
that's
mean any that could
sure. Yeah. And that's the thing. It does mean everything.
but
Well, Cameron, I really appreciate you coming on this show here and sharing with us a slice of what your day looks like. And I think it's so important for the listeners here to get an understanding of, what does it look like for those that are part of the team. And we always get the owners and the founders, but they have a certain perspective, I think, which was different from somebody who is in a leadership role or is running the team itself. So, and they're not the owner. So I really appreciate that. Cameron, thanks so much again for coming on the show and sharing with us your experience.
yeah, totally. Thanks for having me, Jesse. Appreciate you.
Take care. Cheers.
Yep.